everybody, this is Vance from fishingwithvance.com. On today's episode, I'm going to go over the tubes that we used this past season and how we rigged them. I know we got a lot of comments on some of our videos from this past summer. Around July, we were really catching fish on tubes. And quite a few comments on what kind we were using, asking what kind we were using, and then how we were rigging them. So I'm just going to go over real quick the types of tubes that we're using, that we were using this year and we tend to use, and then the various ways that we rig them. So the two tubes that you've probably seen in most of our videos this year, we use these Strike King tubes, and they're the 3.5 inch pro models. This blue guy, he did damage this year, this black and blue tube. Full shut.
Got him?
I think so. Little guy. You're a little guy. There you go. Oh yeah, this dude did too.
Got him?
Yeah. Little guy. Good fish? Oh yeah, right here. I'll have to go around. I got him. And in the spring, I had a lot of success on this mustard color when the water was a lot more clear. So, yep. Graybeard. Little mustard tube action. Oh, decent. Thank you. As the water got stained, just like you would expect, the black and blue did well. But around July, they couldn't stay off these things. So those are the two that we went to. We used a lot of different colors, but for the most part, like I said, the blue and the mustard, they carry the day. So how do we rig these things? And we've just experimented over time and watching other guys on YouTube how they do it, and have just come to what works best for us. When we first started out throwing the tube, I first threw it in mostly river fishing for smallmouth, and I used to throw a green pumpkin tube for smallies, and I really just didn't even worry about tube heads or jig heads or anything like that. I just went with a straight true turn hook, a 3/0 size, and it had a little it's a worm hook, so it had a little bit of a snell in there, a little bit of a snag, and it would hold that on the tube a little better. And I just basically just jammed that thing down there and literally just went exposed hook, and that was it. It just I just poked it out there and fished it in the river like that. Now what you get into with that, you get a lot of good hookups with that, I will say that, but obviously it's not weedless, and it also tends to tear your tube up pretty quick. Couple hook sets and this thing will pop right through there, and it would hold it on for a little while, but after a while you'd have a big gaping hole in that tube, and we were blowing through them pretty fast. I know, especially my partner High Life, once he got going on the tube, because he really catches them on tubes, he was blowing through packs like crazy. So we started looking at other things of how to fish these. So we started looking at these jig heads, and again, these are nothing special about these. We get these at Walmart. Basically, they're these Arky. They're real inexpensive. I forget what they are per pack, in various sizes. We really like the lighter ones, the 1/16 and also the 1/32. Every once in a while I'll throw on the 1/8 ounce. if I'm really trying to get it down to them. But for time and time again, both Mike and I we use the 16th or the 1/32. I don't have any 32nds here, so again, nothing magical about this. You just wet the jig head, and the thing you got to remember with this, obviously, is you got to do this before you tie it on your line. I actually made that mistake a few times. And then we try not to touch these as much as you can when you first start out, because they're covered in salt, and that we think that helps. So you just push it down in there and pop that eye through there, and that's all there is to it. We use a polymer knot, tie the polymer right to that. The nice thing about this is you don't have to worry about, when we used to fish with just a hook, sometimes we'd end up adding a split shot or something if we wanted to get the weight down. But with this weight, you don't need a split shot. And with this type, where the eyelet is positioned here, we really found that for those you get more of a spiral action as it goes down, sinking in the lake. And for whatever reason, out at our lake where we fish, the fish just drives them crazy. They can't stay off it like that. We used other lead heads where the eye was more forward. I don't happen to have any with me right now, but the eye would be up more on the front of the lead head, and then it would spiral less, but it would hang up less also. But like my partner always says, if you want to catch fish, sometimes when you play, you got to pay, so you get more hang-ups. But this setup was deadly all year long. Like I said, sorry about that, my phone went off. You get a lot of spiral action going down. You just throw it out there, let it fall. Now again, it's not weedless, so you start tossing this thing up and around timber and laydowns on the bank, you're going to hang up. But again, that's where the fish are, so sometimes you just lose them. That's the way it goes. So that's that method, and it's pretty much, these two are the same. This is just heavier. Now halfway through the summer, when it started getting a lot more weeds out of our lake, again, this thing isn't weedless. You throw that down in there, half the time it would pull up a bunch of weeds. Especially, I started throwing this tube right out in the middle when the fish in the middle of the summer were getting off the bank in the middle of the day. I would go off and start tossing this thing in the middle, all around, deeper weed piles and weed beds down underneath, like 5 to 7 feet underneath the water. And you couldn't even really see. You just knew there were weeds down there. But if you threw it like this, it would just pull up, half the bottom of the lake, as my partner would say. So I started rigging it a different way. And again, I saw somebody else doing this on YouTube, so I tried it. So what I used was, we're big fans of the Gamakatsu hooks. I used the Gamakatsu EWG hook. I like the size 3/0 for this. Again, this is a 3.5 inch pro model tube. And for this, you just take it through and rig it almost like Texas rigging it. Then you just take it through and immediately come back out. You come around, hopefully you can see this, come around like that, and then of course you're going to tie off like that. And then here, instead of running the hook up through the middle of the tube, you're going to pinch the entire thing and pull it like that and make it a weedless presentation. So couple positive to this, it's weedless. Like I said, I would use the Superline hook because it's heavier, and then you don't have to bother with a split shot. You have plenty for that to sink down. You want that to flutter down into those weeds, and nice and slow. It drives them nuts. And then this, you got this. The hook is laying alongside the tube, so it's a lot more weedless. Now, the downside of that is you are going to miss some fish. You're not going to have the, I should have left this in here, but you're not going to have the hookup that you get with the exposed hook, like when you're fishing this, obviously. So you got, he hits this, he's pretty much toast. Whereas, this, I've missed a few. But again, if you're going to toss this thing into the weeds, you're going to be able to throw this more and more and more without just bringing up the bottom of the lake. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's how we fished our tubes this year. Mostly our go-to is this 1/8 insert, and toss that up around anywhere up shore, and it really worked. Or next to rock piles, it would also work. This, I would throw that right in the middle of the lake, deep into weeds or anywhere around weed beds, and that would work too. So you wouldn't think tubes, for most guys think tubes for smallmouth, which is what I used to think, especially in the river. But at our lake, they can't stay off the tube for largemouth. So give it a try if you haven't fished tubes much. It's a very underrated bait. And we use these Strike King ones. You can use any kind, though. They're all pretty much the same. They all have garlic or salt and whatnot on them. But we tend to use the Strike King. So hope you enjoyed this video. It was just real quick and dirty today. Didn't get a chance to get out and fish today, so I thought I'd cut a quick video on how we do our tubes. I want to thank you guys for watching. As usual, please subscribe if you haven't. Give me comments on how you rig your tubes. Maybe you guys have different ideas. It's all about sharing the ideas. So again, thanks for watching, and catch you next time on fishingwithvance.com.